Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be filming a Q&A out here in my shed, and we have quite the rainy weather going on. It's so pretty. I actually like days like this, but it rained all night. Everything is still so nice and green here in Ohio. We've really been blessed with rain. I have a few things to mention before getting into the actual questions. First of all, our summer candles are on sale right now. Burning beside me here is the peach nectar, but I'm pretty sure that scent is sold out. But there's some other great smelling ones, so make sure to check them out on the Etsy shop. Like I often say, they're made with 100% natural soy wax along with natural fragrances and oils. And Amy, the lady that pours them for me, does an amazing job with them. And the other thing I wanted to mention is a few weeks ago I filmed our corn day, what I called it. My sister and myself went down to my mom and dad and we put some corn in the freezer, and I kind of filmed that process. I thought maybe it would be helpful to some of you in case you want to do something like that. And depending what area you're from, you could still get corn, I'm sure, if you want to put some in the freezer for this winter. It's such a handy vegetable to have on hand. It's fairly simple, although it takes some time and is a little bit messy. So first, of course, you husk it and then you clean it up, blanch it, then you have to cool it down a bit, and then, cut it off and put it in bags, and then from there in the freezer. Again, such a handy thing to just grab if you want to have a quick vegetable to make, during the winter months or whenever you can't get fresh corn. So the first questions are from last month's Q&A, and I did get the chance to just go over some of these questions a bit before starting this video. That's always a little bit helpful for me if I can do that. That way I kind of know what's coming, and I think there's some pretty good ones in here. Abby Rose 65 says, have you ever considered making a cookbook? I have already thought about it. It would probably just be finding the time to do it, but I'm always after my sister. I feel like she should. She's really good with cooking and she has many great recipes. Who knows, maybe someday she will, and if she does, I will let you guys know. M. Makey says, I have some questions. I know you are no longer selling skirts, but mentioned how soft the fabrics were. I would like to make my own skirts. Can you share where you get the fabrics? Are they a particular brand? Do you use different fabrics for summer and winter? Do you have a skirt pattern for sale? If someone you know has a business and cannot share that information, I understand. Also, I love your porch swing. Are the pillow fabrics or any of the fabrics outdoor fabrics? If not, do you treat them? I live in Florida where we get a lot of rain in the summer, so regular fabric can get moldy. Yeah, first of all, on the skirts, I will send you, or I will put the link down below in the description box to Mount Hope Fabrics. That is always where I got my nice soft knit fabrics for the skirts. Still like that fabric. I'm not sure what kind of blend it is. I want to say, polyester. It's like a brush knit. Some of those are really soft, and I'm sure they would send out samples for you if you, want to see a sample before actually purchasing yards of it. But I'll put that link down below in the description box. And then as far as having a skirt pattern for sale, that would be a thought. I still have all of my patterns, and to be honest, it's something I haven't just totally forgotten about. I think it's, I always think maybe someday I'd, get into that again. I enjoyed it, but just simply not enough time to do everything, I guess. But I would consider maybe selling the patterns. I'd have to think about that one. And then the other question was about the fabric on my pillows for the porch. Those aren't really outdoor fabrics that I know of, although I know when I got them from Amazon, they were, I searched outdoor, pillows, and those came up. So maybe they are, to me, they just feel like a regular, cotton fabric, maybe a little heavier, like more canvasy maybe. But I'm sure, so far they haven't gotten moldy for me, but you may want to think about that if you do live in a climate where things get, have a tendency to get moldy. Although here in Ohio we have a lot of humidity and rain sometimes during the summer, and yeah, so far I haven't had issues with that, so maybe it is kind of mold resistant. I'll put the link for those pillow covers down below in the description box. I do get a lot of questions about them. I've used them for the last number of years. I don't grow tired of them, but who knows, maybe one of these years I'll switch them out. Kathy P says, what is your paint to water ratio for the DeWalt air sprayer, and are you using latex paint? I am having trouble with it spraying correctly. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It can be a bit tricky to get that paint to the right consistency that it'll run through, you know, smoothly. First of all, yes, I always use latex paint. Just use water to thin it down, and I'm trying to think what I could compare it to, like the consistency my paint is, because it really varies in your paint that you buy. Some is actually thicker to begin with, and you need to add more water, so I can't really just give you a ratio, but I just kind of, you know, mix it until it just looks right to me, and I'd say maybe kind of like a heavy whipping cream, maybe even thinner. I know I don't follow all of the rules when it comes, whatever came with the sprayer. I know some of the sprayers have maybe screens with them where you're supposed to test your paint. If it goes through the screen, it's ready for your sprayer. I never used any of that. For some reason, it never really worked for me. I just kind of use my own judgment with it. I hope you can figure that out. It is an awesome sprayer. It's my favorite one. I definitely purchase another one just like it if it were ever to give out. Gay Marianne's Fox says, can you please tell us about the weather there, like in each season what it's like? Odd question, I know. I live in California. We wouldn't mind moving, so I'm curious what the weather is like in different places. Sure, I'll try to answer that. Now, depending who you'd ask, would probably advise you to not move into Ohio because we have some weird weather. Like our winters are so gray and damp and cold and bone chilling, if you ask me. Although at the same time I still kind of like them. I know it sounds weird in a way, but if we like last winter we had a really nice winter. We got a lot of snow, so that really helps. I'm just not really fond of that muddy, gray, foggy weather we sometimes have, but it kind of depends, you know, from year to year. But I would say our winter season generally starts, the weather like turns cold probably in, you know, last of October, November. Sometimes we get a little bit of snow already, usually kind of, you know, cold temperatures, but probably not in the 20s, probably more, you know, 30s and 40s, and sometimes even 50 still in November. And December, January, February can be really, you know, wintry. Sometimes it gets really cold, like, you know, 0 degrees. And then sometimes we have weird warm-ups where it goes up to, you know, in the 50s, but that doesn't happen often, the warm-ups. And then come March, it can be anything. That's when people, I mean, we can have a huge snowstorm or a blizzard, or our tulips can almost start blooming. It's really, you know, up and down in that way. April, May can still be kind of chilly, but usually nice. I love spring. That's my favorite season. It's when everything, you know, grows out and it's just so pretty. And we often get a lot of rain, so we don't have to worry about droughts for the most part. I mean, every now and then we'll have a summer where, you know, it gets kind of dry, but and then summers are awesome here too. I think, again, that would be, you know, everyone has their opinion on that. Some people just do not like the hot weather we've been having recently. Honestly, for me, I kind of like that. I like, you know, hot summer weather, and I like when it cools down in the evening. And of course, you know, if you have an air-conditioned house to go into, that really helps. If it gets really hot and muggy on the outside, you can at least go in and, you know, cool off. But growing up, we never had that. We didn't have electric, so it was always hot, like in the house and outside. But I've really gotten used to having that air conditioner, especially to sleep with. I hope you guys can't hear John. He's out there grinding a stump right now. We had some trees cut down. I always hate that. Like, I love my trees. And these were dead trees. They were, could have been, like, our shops would have been in danger if they would have fallen over. And they want to make more room to park some things out there. Like my sister, like my brother-in-law has some things he wants to park. They want to create kind of a parking lot. I'll try to put some clips on here of the trees being cut down. Although, again, I don't like that sort of thing. I'm not sure why I'm even talking about it. But Jackie, I'm not sure am I pronouncing that correctly, but Liddell says, Mary, did you have holidays when you were full-on Amish? Unfortunately, work ethic used to be passed on, but I think younger ones get away too much. I think the internet gets in the way. I agree with that last part. But yeah, as far as holidays, yeah, we always celebrate it. You know, the holidays, like, for the most part, trying to think what was different. We had some extra holidays. The Amish have some extra holidays where they, you know, celebrate, or they don't, you know, work on, like, Old Christmas and Good Friday, Ascension Day. Those days are all kept, you know, as in people don't go to work, or a lot of the places around here are actually closed because a lot of the employees are Amish, so they couldn't, be open those days. So if you're visiting the area, you might want to keep that in mind. But as far as, Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving and Halloween, I never honestly like to celebrate because it's not a good thing. But I like fall. Like, I enjoy the, the colors and the pumpkins and all that. Wait till the blue jay is finished with his scolding out here. Eileen Killen says, are you going to post a video of your holiday to Hawaii? I am sorry I didn't get that done. I was just thinking about it the other day, and I thought I still could do that. It really doesn't matter that it happened back in June. If somebody were to be planning a vacation, maybe for next summer or whenever, it might be helpful, some of our, favorite places, but I'll see. Maybe I'll get around to it one of these days. And it would probably be a video on the side, like not one of my regular Wednesday videos. Sometimes I'll do one kind of over the weekend. So the next questions are from the cleaning video. Bethany Corin says, I'm curious how many hours of sleep is optimal for you. I normally get around probably 6 to 7 hours of sleep each night, which is probably not enough. I should be getting 8 or more. But I'm a late owl, like I'm often up late, and right now with Ephraim going to school, I get up at 6:30. To me, the ideal time is 7 o'clock. I did that this summer for the most part, unless, some days I had to get up earlier, but normally it was around 7, and that was just right. Like, it was starting to get daylight and the birds were singing, and then I'm ready to get up. But right now with the 6:30 and the days getting a little bit shorter, it's still kind of dark on the outside. It's a little bit harder for me to get up, but I find if I have that routine, I get more done and everything kind of goes more smoothly. And of course, again, with Ephraim going to school, I almost need to get up that time. Eileen Riley says, question, what do you do with paper that we all wind up with, whether it's bills, brochures, magazines, etc., or do you have a Monica closet? I had to smile about that one. I'm not a Monica, but although I admire some of her, I should probably be a little more like that. She's referring to the Friends show, Monica. Yeah, I have a box in storage, or boxes, I should say, where I keep, like, talking about the bills and like statements and stuff you get on the mail that you feel like you almost should keep in case you get audited or something. I don't know, is that even a thing? Like, do you still need the actual paper, or is that just an old-fashioned way of thinking? Because nowadays, all the record is on the computer somewhere. You really probably wouldn't need all of the actual bills, but at the end of the year, I'll collect. We have a drawer in the desk where we put them in during, throughout the year, and then by the end of the year, that drawer gets fairly full. So I'll put it in a box and just write on the top like the year it is, and then put it up in storage. And once in a while, if I clean out storage, I will get rid of the, recycle the boxes that are, years old. I don't feel like we have to keep all of that stuff. Although sometimes I wonder if it would be interesting in the years to come, like would our grandchildren want to see, how much our gas bill was, or because I find that interesting. I've seen boxes like that from my great-grandparents where they paid just mere, cents for something that we're paying almost hundreds for. It's always kind of amazing to me that, but for the most part, I try to keep them moving, like the boxes, get them recycled. And then for, magazines, and we don't get a lot of magazines, but the ones we get, also recycle them, once we're finished with them. Annie Bailey says, I was wondering if your kitchen has been remodeled from its original state. There is a division in the flooring, and your refrigerator is quite a distance from your sink and stove. Yeah, it's probably not ideal that, with the refrigerator being so far away from the sink and the stove, but we get used to it, and it has been slightly remodeled, nothing major. And when I saw this question, I thought, how interesting would that be to throw some pictures on the screen here of how the kitchen looked, or what the kitchen looked like when, I was just a young girl at home, still the Amish kitchen. We do have a few pictures floating around from that. And then I began thinking, I think it would be better if I maybe sometime did a whole video on that and just showed you guys the difference. Like, it would even be interesting to me. I haven't looked at them in a while, but it's just amazing what years of work and just tweaking here and there can do to a property. So maybe I'll just do that. Someday I'll make a video on some of the befores and the in-betweens, and then how it is now. It looks like a totally different place, and the pictures would be really grainy because the ones I have are just printed out pictures, so I need to scan them and then put them on the screen for you. But I thought maybe it would be interesting to you guys that enjoy that sort of thing. Sandra G. Cox says, I was wondering if you have a garden shed or a place in your garage for your supplies and tools. By the way, do you have a way that you organize paints and tools and places for your knobs, hinges, etc. in the garages? Trying to organize this kind of stuff and need inspiration. I could probably get some inspiration from you guys. I feel like I just want to be more organized. I do have some areas, like my paint supplies are all underneath the stairway in the basement of our house. And I would definitely store them out in the shop if it was heated, but you know, during the winter here in Ohio, I have to bring them all in, so I just try to keep them in all the time. And then as far as you know, tools, we have both of the shops have some tools. I feel like we need to be more organized with that too, and we're working on it. Right now we're actually working on getting the shops more organized. And then, you know, door hinges or doorknobs and hinges and all that stuff. I have little totes that I put that in, but again, I have some in the one shop and a container in the other. I want to try to, you know, put everything together where it's, you know, everything's in one place instead of all these different places. And same with some of our gardening tools. I have some back here in the little red shed, and then some in the overhang out by the brown shop. It's just kind of, yeah, in different places, and then sometimes you're not sure where you left it, and definitely could use some organization in that area too. Jessica says, how long do your fresh flowers stay healthy after you cut them for your table? I'm trying to think. Those hydrangeas, I think, is what I had used. I would say those would have been there maybe a week to 10 days. It kind of depends on the flower and how far along the flower was when I cut it off, but I remember thinking those hydrangeas didn't really last that long. Pretty sure in the past I've had them last longer, but I think that was probably due to the fact that they were a little further along when I clipped them. Sherry says, I noticed that you don't have central air. Have you thought about having central air? Yes, definitely have thought about it, how awesome that would be. Get rid of those window air conditioners, but as many of you know, this house was built as an Amish home, so there wasn't electricity in here when we left the Amish, so we had to put all that in. And it would be kind of a major feat to put, you know, ducts and all of that stuff in a house that is, you know, finished and years old already. I think it could be done. We had talked about it, debated, and still talk about it, but at this point we'll probably just stick with our window air conditioners during the summer season. Eugenia says, perhaps painting window grids white would be a nice compromise. I'll have to think about that one. The frame part, like the actual casing where the window, you know, out around the window, not the panes, but the actual, you know, frame part, is that gray color. So I always thought I would try to keep that, the grids gray to kind of match that. Although I'm just now thinking, you know, how would that look if, being that, you know, everything else is painted white, like the wood part, I think that might even look okay with painting the grids white. So maybe someday. Connie says, maybe your cat isn't feeling well. My cat gets more clingy when she is sick. My cats are fine and healthy, pretty sure about that. Pebbles just loves to be held. I'm not sure which was the clingy one in the video, but they both can get that way sometimes, but I don't mind. The next questions are from the tea party video. Deanne Adams says, I'd like to know how you spent the time during the party. Was anything planned for the group? Did you have a prayer, devotion, music, any activities your guests did together? How long was the party? Did you mail invitations, etc.? Yeah, I should have provided these details in the video. I like questions like this. I feel like it helps me for future videos to be mindful of, you know, what all to put in there, but I can see if you're thinking of, you know, doing something like this yourself, you probably want to know these details. So, but yeah, as far as it was a girls' retreat weekend at church, that was actually what, and the party was kind of part of that. We're youth sponsors at our church, so Friday night this started. This was, you know, girls only. We did a video series, and then Saturday morning was the garden party, and then Saturday afternoon more videos, and then we went out to eat Saturday evening. But we really didn't do anything, you know, special during the party. They arrived around 9:30, and I think they left around 11:30 to 12, something like that. And I definitely had a good time, and I think they did too. I wanted to put some music. This probably wasn't quite what you were thinking here when you asked about the music, but I thought it would have been neat to have some kind of garden music going on a little speaker underneath the porch, just in the background, but I didn't get around to that. I think that would have been neat. Josh Klein says, I've been wanting to do a party like this for some time now, but never have. Just wondering how much it costs to buy all of the groceries for it. Yeah, it's not cheap, groceries, as you all know. It's kind of hard to actually tally up how much you use for like an event like that, because you end up, you know, getting the groceries, but you still have some ingredients left over then to use for yourself. But I should have, you know, added them up just to see, but it wasn't really cheap by any means. But I wasn't paid for the party. I didn't want to be paid. But in the past, when I did parties all the time, I would have a little donation jar where people just donated. Sometimes it was really good, and then other times I didn't make anything. I probably lost money, but just depending on who came, I guess. But in the end, when I used to do the parties, I know I checked into about our regulations here in the area, and surprisingly, Holmes County, Ohio here, you're able to feed up to, I think, 250 people per week without having a license. So I could have done that, like I never reached that point, and I would have been able to charge per person or per plate. So if I were to ever do that again, I'd definitely go that route. That way I'd be sure to not lose money at least. Grissel's Cake says, I love the centerpiece you created and love your denim dress. Well, thank you. It looks comfy and perfect for the summer. May I ask where you got it from? Sure, I think I got it from, I want to say Old Navy, but now I'm second guessing myself. Was it Kohl's? Not quite sure, but one of those places, and it is very comfortable. Anne Marie says, how did you serve your food? Buffet? No, I put everything in dishes and passed it around. No one had to get up to get their food, so it's always kind of special if you're the one, you know, sitting there. Bev Duncan says, do you use an inkjet printer for your stencils on your chairs? Yes, that is an inkjet printer. I don't think you can do that with laser printers, if I'm correct. Sharon says, I had to stop at Walmart today for some D-rings. In the main aisle, I was surprised to see so many knockoff of your style of decor items, chalk painted white items with little sayings. They were all made in China. I think once something gets pushed into Walmart, it will bode a decline interest in that decor trend. I have heard that change is good, but you have an entire business built around the farm lifestyle. Are you concerned? No, I'm not concerned, but I know what you're talking about. I agree. You know, some of the things that I like are actually really trendy, probably, but I don't really like them because they're trendy. So I feel like as long as things I use in my house are just going to be things I like, whether it's in style or not. And I feel like there's something with having, talking about the Etsy shop, for example, on there, if I make things in the shop to sell, it's probably going to be more appealing to people if it comes from someone that, personally made each item, like handmade it, and it came from the idea came from just a normal person and not some big factory in China. Or that's the way I look at it anyway. I'm sure not everyone would agree, but I don't really worry about things like that. Shania Maris, probably not pronounced correctly, says, I don't know why, but I envisioned your sister to be on the heavy side, but she's even smaller than you. Yeah, she is really small, like her hands and feet, she's really petite, are smaller than, mine are, and she's a little bit shorter. I probably mentioned this before, but growing up, my mom would try to fatten us up. We were really skinny little girls, and she bought some kind of compound. It was called Oza. Maybe some of you know about it, but O-Z-A, it probably stood for something, but Oza compound, and it was the most horrible stuff ever, or at the time I thought that. And she made us drink this, tried to, persuade us. She wasn't mean about it, but I think we were probably rewarded with something to, just get it down. But I know one evening Marlene threw up when she took it, so that was the end of that. But I don't know why that came to mind. So the next questions are from the homemade paint video. April Bossard says, I didn't know you could bleach wood. What does that do for the wood? Is it full strength, regular bleach? And then after sanding, what do you use when you're wiping down the wood? A cleaner of some sort or mineral spirits? Yeah, bleach can really lighten wood. I mean, sometimes it does a better job than other times. It kind of depends on your wood and probably the previous stain, but I know when I did it for my kitchen countertops, it did an amazing job of lightening them. When I did it for these drawers, I got a shade lighter, but not quite as light as I would have wanted to, and just regular bleach. And then after sanding, I don't use anything special to wipe down my dust. I just kind of brush it off or use a rag that's, lying around there to get it off. Michelle Slaughter says, just curious about how much it costs to make the paint. I should have included that in the video. I wanted to and I forgot, but I have a little paper here. I wrote it down, And I believe the cost for that paint, and I did even have some left over. Right now it's stored in a jar, and I haven't checked it lately to make sure it's still okay. I wanted to do the test on that to see how long it would keep, but I believe I spent $6.20 on that paint for that piece, again with some left over, but I thought it's just far out how little it cost and what an amazing job it did. Like my milk was around $2, and then the vinegar 20 cents because I only used a cup. And then the lime, actually the lime that I had was around here for years. I'm not sure what I had paid for that, but I just Googled how much pickling lime costs, and I thought for the amount that I used, probably around $1.50. That's even on the high side. And then the plaster of Paris, probably around $1. And then the colorant, $1.50. But yeah, I came up with $6.20. Jan White says, just wondering what the paint smelled like. Will the wood have an odor if it should get warm? It actually smelled kind of like, I think the plaster of Paris really put a smell in there. It kind of smelled like spackling, kind of that, a little like paint, but not your strong, like chemical paint. It wasn't a bad smell at all. And I don't know about having the wood having an odor. I mean, so far I just have it sitting in the shop at this point. I wanted to kind of test it, just give it a couple weeks, and once it's totally cured, make sure it still looks okay before I sell the piece. But, applying that anti-Sloan wax over the top, I think everything would kind of be sealed in there. And so far, it's still looking great. I'm really impressed. Brian and Tammy Olson-Pell, again, I think I had another question from them. Question, would you do this again, or was it too much of a process? I would definitely do it again. I'm not saying that I always would do it when I have a lot of paint in my paint closet. I'll still go for that paint too, but I would want to try it again, maybe different colors. Cheryl Miller says, when you put the wax on furniture, do you have to reapply it later down the road? That is a good question. I have some furniture pieces in our home that I applied, the anti-Sloan wax to, and some is maybe 3 to 4 years old because I just started buying that wax about that time, and I have never, re-waxed it. Now our kitchen countertop, our wooden countertop, I applied anti-Sloan wax, and just the other day I thought, I should probably just give it another coat because it really repels water. Like it won't let any water, soak into the wood or anything. And especially the area right by the sink, there's even some cut marks on there. Sometimes we think we're being careful, but we end up cutting a little bit into the countertop. I think it would be a good idea to kind of seal it off with wax again. But that is a surface that gets used, every day, like 3 times a day or more. I think that's a different story than what a piece of furniture would be. I'm thinking just a regular piece of furniture that doesn't get, just the only thing that happens to it is just it gets dusted every now and then. I don't think you would ever really need to reapply, but maybe I'm wrong on that. The last questions, I have a few here from the dollar store video. Andrea Supermom says, can I ask if you feel the spray paint you used on the 2-tier nut display is food safe? I'm never sure about that. In my mind, I always think, if you paint something, nowadays, especially with the latest paint that we use, I feel like, after it's dried, it shouldn't be able to give anything off, if that makes sense. But I realize that's probably, in a perfect world, it might actually, but to be honest, the nuts that I put in that tray were some that I threw out anyway. They were old. I just found them in the cupboard, and I thought it looks kind of fallish to use nuts. But I think if I were to actually use that dish, I would probably use it for like a wrapped candy maybe, until I do some research and just make sure that paint is food safe. Peter White says, do the labels wash off on the pet bowls? Actually, they don't. Just this morning I washed our cat's bowl, and I submerged the whole thing in water, and it doesn't come off. Now, I didn't just scrub over the sides, which usually that wouldn't be necessary, but I'm always impressed with that 631. It's Oracle 631 vinyl. I know that's not your question here, but it just seems to kind of stay put, even if it's like I've had some outdoor signs where I use that vinyl just to test it, and it stays put unless you actually want to remove it. You're able to pick it off, so it's kind of that perfect vinyl, or if you ask me, it is. Lee Friedman says, I have been a fan for years, but just one issue that irks me. When you put wallpaper or decals on a tray, drawers, tabletop, why do you always have the words top to bottom, not across, so that you can read the word when you pick up the tray or look inside a drawer? You do that with all tops and drawers. Why? I have several vintage trays, and all the patterns run across the item. Yeah, the tray that I redid in the video, I know I was I wasn't able to do that, like to put it the long way across, because I would have had to cut up the words from it was a Dollar General placemat. And I'll try to throw a picture of that on the screen. And I know when I did it, it kind of bothered me a little too, because I thought it should be the other way. So I'm almost thinking I would normally try to put it the other way, but let's pull some other pictures and video clips from previous trays up and see, and maybe tabletops, and just make sure, yeah, we're doing that. But I think I kind of try to do that usually. Now I know for my drawers, in fact, the piece that I had just done, it was the homemade paint, that chest of drawers. I had lined the drawers with the newspaper print wallpaper, and being that the width of the wallpaper was too, like, it wasn't long enough to put it in the right way, like if you'd open the drawer you could actually read the print, I had to put it in the other way because I didn't want to piece it. I guess for me, I'd rather have it the wrong way, lying the wrong way, as far as you'd have to look at it sideways to read it, than actually having a seam in there. I don't really like seams, so that's probably why, you know, I do that in drawers often, is because of the measurement of the paper. But normally I would try to, you know, line my things the other way if possible. But I know what you're saying, and I can see that would probably bother some people. Daryl Ratliff says, "You made me laugh. You want to make your blue pumpkin more realistic. In all seriousness, I love the look of them. Thanks for all the creativity." Cindy Ratliff. Honestly, we have real blue pumpkins here in our area. It almost sounds like maybe some people don't have that where they live, but here in our markets, they're kind of rare. Like, you don't see a lot of them, but they're that pretty kind of light bluish, almost greenish color. So they are actually a real thing. So that concludes all of the questions. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.